What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry for the tease. I was going to take a longer break than I thought. I was going to wait till after Christmas, but there's so much going on in sports right now. I decided I got to give you guys a show today, so I decided let's go live today and give the people what they want. So let's get started. A lot of free agency rumors going around. A lot of signings continue to happen. The Mets continue to make moves. They have re-signed their center fielder, Brandon Nimmo, to an 8-year deal worth $162 million. Nimmo's turned into a really good player for them, very good leadoff hitter. Gets on base a lot, very disciplined hitter, solid hitter, really good center fielder. Come a long way defensively. Fan favorite, great clubhouse leader. Very good player. They gave him a lot of money. They gave him a huge contract, but I think he deserves it. You probably would have liked to give him maybe 6 years, but I think he gets lower to 20 million. I think that's fair. It's you got to pay to keep talent like Brandon Nimmo, which they did. They also added to the bullpen. They signed David Robertson, who was between the Cubs and the Phillies, had a great year last year, 1 year, $10 million. The guy, of course, started with the Yankees, was an all-star. Then went to the White Sox, did some closing with the White Sox, was very good. Then went back to the Yankees. Then he, with the Cubs for a couple years, had a lot of injuries prior to last year, the previous couple of years. But last year was able to stay healthy. Had a great year closing for the Cubs, and then he went to Philadelphia and was one of our top late inning guys. He's got really good stuff. He's a very good late inning reliever. Obviously knows how to play in New York. He's been with the Yankees on 2 different stints for several years in total. Good signing. And a few years back, they actually made a trade to acquire Brooks Raley from Tampa Bay Rays to give up a pitching prospect, and that deal. It's a good move. Raley had a good year last year, pitching 6 a game, sub-3 ERA. He lefties pitches 155 against them. That's definitely left-handed relief pitching. Last year, their best left-handed reliever was probably Julio Rodriguez, who had an ERA close to 5, and he's now in Boston. So they pick up a left-handed reliever that they need. So good. So Mets continue to make a lot of moves. Steve Cohen has spent over $400 million on player contracts this offseason. Their payroll is now over $300 million. With luxury tax, could get to $400. We've never seen this before. Kudos to him for spending the money. As a Met fan, I'm very happy with what he's doing. I'm getting one more starting pitcher. Right now, your 5th starter is a competition between Tyler McGill and Dave Peterson. That's that's a big maybe. Can McGill stay healthy? Can he be consistent? Which he hasn't been able to do his first 2 years. And Dave Peterson has been very inconsistent in his first couple of years in the league. They are still interested in Kodai Senga, the Japanese sensation. They're trying to grab him. Maybe a while before we hear anything on Senga, because he does not have a deadline really to sign. A lot of these Japanese guys, when they come over from Japan, they get posted. So sometimes it's 25 days. I think now they extended that to 40 days. But Senga, I do not believe has a deadline, so he can sign. It doesn't have to be within 4 days. He can sign whenever he wants. Yeah, of course he doesn't have to, but it looks like he definitely wants to. He's got a lot of, I heard, like 5 to 6 year offers. I'd be surprised if he doesn't come to the States and play in the MLB. So they're definitely looking at him. They're trying to grab him. As a matter of fact, I think we took care of our lineup by re-signing Brandon Nimmo. All the pieces are in place pretty much offensively. Got some prospects on the rise. Now, Desmond Hale, they said they are going to try to do that in-house, which I don't mind. You exercise the option on Vogelbach, who will play against the righties. Comes who play against the lefties. But you got this catcher, Alvarez, who might be the top prospect in all of baseball, who had a cup of coffee late in the year last year. Well, you got 3 catchers on the roster. You got Tomas Nido, you got Jason McCain, who they're trying to trade, but he's making $12 million a year to hit like 190. So that might be tough. And then you have Alvarez, Alvarez isn't the greatest defender. He's more known for his bat. So maybe you could have Alvarez hit platoon Alvarez with Vogelbach, kind of ease Alvarez in. And you also have Mark Vientos, who also hits lefties very well. Now he's another one of our top prospects. He's a third baseman. You got another third base prospect. You got Brett Beatty, who flashed after he came up last year. Then unfortunately, he got hurt. Still very, 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 very young. You got those 3 prospects. So they should be able to do that in-house. Worst case, if it doesn't work out, they at the trade line, they can go and make a move. And you could use a better catcher, but Tomas Nido had a lot better last year. He was great defensively. They'll probably stick with him. Like I said, they have Alvarez, who I'm sure they want to get some work behind the plate as well. At this point, they probably need one more start, and they gotta continue to hammer out the bullpen. Obviously, you locked up Edwin Diaz. Thankfully, they did that right away. And you bring in David Robinson, you bring in Brooks Raley. They still need a couple more relievers, probably. Adam Olavina was their second best reliever last year. He's a free agent. Seth Lugo was probably your third best reliever last year. He's a free agent. He's getting a lot of interest to be a starter. Of course, he came up a starter. His first year starter, he was very good. Then from there was a little inconsistent. Then moved him to the bullpen, and he kind of found his home there. He's been much better as a reliever than as a starter, but he has had some success as a starter. He wants to be a starter, so if he gets a chance to start, my guess is that he'll do that. So he might be leaving, but so they definitely got to bring in a couple more bullpen arms. Good news is if they bring in their starter, that means both Tyler McGill and David Peterson hypothetically could come out of the bullpen. So that could be just 2 more arms, and Pearson's also a left-hander. I guess he was a second left-hander, so we'll see what happens. But the Mets are spending a lot of money this offseason. San Diego Padres make a huge splash. They sign all-star shortstop Xander Bogaerts from our Boston Red Sox to an 11-year deal worth $280 million. Huge deal. That Padres lineup looking scary. You got Tatis healthy next year. When he's healthy, he's one of the best young players in the league. You had in Bogaerts, who's a great player. Cronenworth, you got Machado's a great player. There's so many guys over there. That infield is loaded in San Diego. They paid Machado $300 million. They gave Tatis like $340 or $350 on the extension. Now you gave Bogaerts $280. They still got to pay Soto for the next year. He might want $500. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Their payroll's gonna be through the roof. It's gonna be something like right where the Mets are. Right, the Mets right now are like 330 something, and with lucky tax could push 400. And they're not done. If they sign Kodai Senga, that might be a $100 million contract. That could be $20-25 million a year. Plus, they'll sign some more bullpen arms probably as well. And Padres are in that territory as well. So big signing. Now let's address the what else the Boston Red Sox did. Masataka Yoshida, I believe I pronounced that right. He's another sensation from Japan. There's a lot of talent in Japan in baseball. So many of these guys are coming over. Yeah, of course, he had Ohtani a couple of years ago. He's maybe the league's best player. Now you got Senga's on his way. This kid Boston just signed is on his way. Man, be interesting to see what happens in the Winter Baseball Classic, because Japan could be possibly the top competition for the U.S. They're just producing top talent that goes to the MLB left, out of their hat. Red Sox signed Masataka Yoshida. He gets 5 years, $90 million plus a posting fee, which is worth $15.4 million. That won't go against the Red Sox tax. They do have to pay it in order to get him. So in total, it's $100. Bring it to a little over $105 million. Now his numbers in Japan are excellent. Now he was a .327 career hitter in Japan. He had a .440 career on base. He's like basically, his on base was like Joey Votto's was in his prime. And he had like twice many walks as strikeouts. He averaged like 19 homers, 60 plus RBIs a season. Hit 21 homers last year. 2019 he had a career high 29. He can play left field, which fills a need for Boston. Good pickup for the Boston Red Sox. Now let's talk about Shane Bloom. People are slamming him for letting Xander Bogaerts go. Okay. I think people need to chill out a little bit on Shane Bloom. This is why. Bogaerts 30 years old. He got an 11-year deal from San Diego. 11 years for a 30-year-old player, that doesn't make any sense. They're going to pay Bogaerts till he's 41 years old. He's not going to be an elite player until he's 41. The back half of that contract is going to be bad for San Diego. The only reason you should be giving out like a 10-year deal is to a guy who's, like when Bryce Harper and Manny Machado hit the mark a couple years ago. They were still only 26, 27 years old. So yes, Manny Machado gets 10 years, but he also will still be, he'll be 36. So he'll be like just starting to end off when his career is over. Same thing with Bryce Harper. Even Harper getting 13 years. The last like 2 or 3 might not be pretty, but for most of that deal, he'll still be an excellent player. But you're giving a 30-year-old Bogarts 11 years. The whole back half of that deal look right now looks ugly. I didn't have a problem with the money. Him getting $280 million, he deserved his bag. Yeah, he absolutely did that. That's it's over $25 million a year. He absolutely deserved it, no doubt. But an 11-year deal, that's a little steep if you ask me. Yes, Bloom, apparently his offer was less than $200 million, which is not a good look. But you're not giving him 11 years. You are not giving him an 11-year deal. And also, he also traded away Mookie Betts. You had 2 homegrown superstars in Mookie Betts. He didn't want to pay Mookie. And then he traded him to the Dodgers. He definitely messed up on that one. But also, they had just brought him in. They just steal him away from their arch rival Tampa Bay Rays. He comes in here like, Mookie Betts, like one of the best players in baseball. I was like, oh yeah, he's a great player. Oh yeah, he wants like a $306 million extension, and he's a free agent in the year. He's like, whoa, what? So he was kind of back into a corner with that. It was either he was a team that wasn't sure of how competitive they're going to be. He just gets there. He gives them like their entire payroll, or he trades them. Yes, the trade wasn't fantastic. Alex Verdugo is a very good player, but it's not Mookie Betts. Against Year Down, who's a very good prospect. We haven't seen him yet. We'll see what he does. But he's a very good hard-hitting infielder. He's not quite here. We'll see what he does. See if he comes up here. Comes up this year. You got Connor Wong, a catching prospect. We haven't seen it. He was never much of anything. Yeah, they should have gotten more for him. But Chamberlain was back into a corner. He gets thrown into there. He takes the job as the president of baseball operations in Boston, and all of a sudden he's tasked with trying to handle maybe the best player in the league, maybe outside of Trout. And with Bogarts, I think he did fumble the bag a little bit in this one because for the last couple of years they were trying to get an extension done. He couldn't get it done. He offered him less than $200 million. He ended up getting $280. So he has not done a very good job so far overall. Although he probably should have gotten more from Mookie Betts. I'm not going to really knock him for trading him. Like I said, he was kind of back into a corner there, but he probably should have gotten some more from Mookie Betts, who was a top 5 player in the league, and probably still is when he's on and when he's healthy. And then he should have extended Bogarts prior to this free agent year. You had to know he was going to opt out based on his production and what he was saying. And he should have made him a little more offer when it comes to the financials in free agency. But he should 11-year deal. That's too many years. I'm giving them probably 7. I'm not giving them more than 8 years. In a perfect world, probably 7. 6 or 7, but 8 probably my limit. 11 is a little much. That being said, now Rafael Devers, your superstar third baseman, who's still in his prime, a year with him for you have to lock him up. There is no excuses. You've had multiple years to extend him. Haven't been able to do it. This is a good enough team. It's a good enough team that can compete next year for sure for a playoff spot. That division's going to be a bloodbath with the Yankees. We'll see what they do the rest of free agency. Toronto and Tampa. Now Baltimore is looking better. Boston's kind of hanging around. That division's once again going to be a bloodbath. He's got to lock up Devers. He's got to lock him up. Automotive Braves make a trade. They trade for the Tigers, but probably the Tigers' best reliever from last year, Joe Jimenez. They add him to their bullpen. They get back 2 prospects, Justin Henry Malloy and Jake Higginbotham. I think I pronounced that right. Henry Malloy is a hitter. He was over 3 levels last year. Was recently drafted. He's a good prospect. Higginbotham wasn't great. He had a year right close to 5 in Double-A last year. He's a pitcher. So Troy gets a pretty good return. I wouldn't have traded Jimenez, but that's a great pickup for the Atlanta Braves. They had a great bullpen last year. I wonder if they would have Joe Jimenez close. He's done some closing in his career. Ace lost our closer, Kenley Jansen, who had a real good year last year. He goes to Boston. So now you bring in Joe Jimenez. So that's a really good move for Braves, who did need one more late inning reliever. Their bullpen was definitely a strength for their team last year. One of the big reasons why they had 101 wins and won the National League East. Wilson Contreras has a big contract to go with St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, their longtime catcher and future Hall of Famer Yadier Molina retired through a long, illustrious career with the St. Louis Cardinals. They're bringing Wilson Contreras, the top catcher on the market. Give him 5 years, $87.5 million. Big deal for Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras said it's going to be more than impossible to embrace Yachty. He's got to go and be himself. He's a very good player. Not the greatest defender in the world. Bit of a mediocre defender. But he's one of the best offensive catchers in baseball last year. 22 home runs. Had like an 815 OPS. He's a very good player. A lot of playoff experience. World Series champion with the Cubs. He goes to St. Louis. By the way, I don't know why Detroit did not trade him. He could have gotten a decent return for him. He definitely asked for too much. I mean, you got to remember, bringing in a catcher. Bringing in a catcher is a little tough mid-season because he's got to be able to manage the staff and a whole new staff. That's tough. And he's not a great defender. He might leave after the season. So I think they asked for too much, to be honest, because he could have easily gotten traded. Houston wasn't looking at him. The Mets were looking at him. He could have easily been on their team and helped a lot of teams. You have a couple of smaller deals. Aledmys Diaz goes to Oakland. 2 years, $14.5 million. Oakland finally signed a free agent. That's good to hear, I guess. He's a decent utility player. He'll probably start for them because the A's got nothing there. Dodgers signed Jason Haber to a minor league deal. He really can't hit anymore, but he is a great outfielder. He's got 5 Gold Gloves. He bounced around, started in Atlanta. He had that big deal with the Cubs. Now he goes to the Dodgers. He reunites with his former Braves teammate Freddie Freeman in L.A. He's a minor league deal with a invite to spring training to help compete for a spot on the Dodgers bench. And Trevor Williams goes to Washington, 2 years, $13 million. He had a decent year with the Mets last year. He was a deaf guy who stepped up to the Mets when they had all the injuries they had in their rotation last year with DeGrom and Scherzer battling all those injuries. He was good. He was pretty good as a long man. He did some decent spot starting work. And my guess is he'll probably get a chance to be a full-time starter with Washington. Well, I don't know who else they're going to put in the rotation. Strasburg might never pitch again. Patrick Corbin might as well not pitch again. He's awful. And then they don't have much there. They got the kid Josiah Gray's pretty good. Joe Ross is okay, but my guess he slots in there in their 5-man rotation. No, so and maybe if he does well in the next 2 years. Remember when he first came up, Williams, who was looked like one of the better young stars in baseball a few years back with the Pittsburgh Pirates. One of the many Pittsburgh Pirates young stars that they failed to develop. There's been so many, Garrett Cole, Tyone, so many of them. Now he goes to Washington for a chance to start. I would have minded the Mets bringing him back, but not a huge loss. But that's the MLB free agency. Still a lot of names out there. This free agency period has been crazy. Still names there. Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa. A lot of the guys still available. Moving on to hockey. Scores from last night. You had the Lightning over the Predators 5-2. You had the Maple Leafs over the Kings 5-0. You had the Panthers over the Red Wings 5-1. Jets over the Blues 5-2. Stars over the Senators 4-3 in overtime. I'm going to take a look at the standings. Haven't done standings up there in a couple of weeks, but take a look at the standings. Boston Bruins in the East are rolling 21-3-1. New Jersey Devils are 21-4-1. That's crazy. Both those teams are same amount of points. Boston's got a game in hand. Those two teams are rolling. Close to Boston, they had a bunch of guys injured to start the year. They're still rolling. Then the Devils came out of nowhere. They've been bad for a while. They appear the rebuild looks to be over. You got Toronto, and they're at 40 points. They're playing really well right now. They got a 10-game point streak going, 8-0-2 in their last 10. You got Carolina at 4 with 34 points. You got at 5th, you got Tampa with 33. And then this is where it gets really jam-packed. Pittsburgh's got 32. The Islanders have 32. Detroit's got 31. And then the Rangers are only also looking at 31. As you know, I'm a big Rangers fan. So I'm playing a little better, see if they can keep up this consistency. Same amount of points as Detroit. Detroit's got a game in hand. You got Florida as a point out. Florida's come out slow. That team's loaded. They got to step it up. Montreal 3 points out that they're looking better than expected. Washington's only 3 points out. Ovechkin, the Capitals aren't looking great. Then you got the Sabres, Philly, and Columbus has been awful. They gave Johnny Gaudreau all that money, and they are awful. 8-15-2. Yikes. Worst team in the Eastern Conference. In the West, Vegas Golden Knights, 19-8-1. In first place in the West, the goaltending has held up for them. They're looking really good. Winnipeg is in second with 35 points. 17-7-1. They're playing really well. Dallas has also got 35. They're 15-7-5. Seattle Kraken's got 30 points, so they're fourth in the West, taking a big step forward in their second year since they were an expansion team. Kings at fifth with 32. M's North in sixth with 30 points. They got to get some help for McDavid and Draisaitl. Those are probably top three guys in the league. McDavid's got probably the best player in the league. Draisaitl at least top 5, not top 3, maybe even the top 2. Those two guys are amazing. They got to get them some help. Calgary's got 29. They're in 7th. Minnesota's got 28th. The defending champs, the Avalanche, got a lot of injuries right now. They're at 27th. They just lost Nathan McKinnon for about a month. That's a big loss for them. Vancouver's only a point out. They're playing pretty well right now. Nashville's, they're struggling. Actually, no, they're playing well. It's the Blues who are struggling. Nashville's 2 points out. Blues, who started off really bad, one of the league's worst teams then. They started playing better. Now they're struggling again. Their goaltending's been horrible. Jordan Bingham's been horrible this year. He is very overpaid. They're now 4 points out of the playoff. They're 12-15. They look lost. Got the Sharks 21 points. Coyotes at 18 points. Blackhawks at 18 points. And the Ducks at 17 points. Ducks worst team in hockey 7-17-3. Moving on to college basketball. Scores from last night. You had Iowa upset number 20 Iowa State 75-56. Number 25 Iowa State over Rutgers 67-66. They win on a buzzer beater. Talk about some NBA action. Your games from last night. Heat over the Clippers 115-100. Bam Adebayo 31 points, 10 rebounds. Clippers were without Kawhi, and it showed. Spurs over the Rockets 118-109. Calvin Johnson 32 points and 7 rebounds. And you've been Nuggets over the Trailblazers 121-100 to 120. Nikola Jokic 30 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. Dame 40 points, 12 assists in the loss. Let's check out the standings now in basketball. Eastern Conference. Boston Celtics are rolling. We're unsure how they respond after they had the very late coaching change with Ime Udoka getting suspended for a year by the team. They promote Joe Mazzulla. At this point, I would fire Ime Udoka. Mazzulla's a great coach. Look, he might win Coach of the Year. Celtics might be back in the finals. Celtics, they probably have the best offensive team in the league. They've been good defensively. Jason Tatum might be the MVP of the league. Him and Jaylen Brown might be the best duo in the league. Becky Hammon, who was a great women's basketball player, she wasn't. She wasn't an assistant coach with the Spurs for a while. Actually, got some head coach interviews. Is now back in the WNBA as a head coach in the WNBA. She was on First Take, and she said she thinks Tatum and Brown might be the best duo in the league, and I think she's right. That duo is incredible. And they're going to get Robert Williams back soon. Look out. Yeah, Milwaukee at 18-6. They're in second. Giannis has been dominant as usual. Cleveland's in third. Cleveland's looking really good. Donovan Mitchell's been a great pickup. Nets starting to play better. Obviously, you got Kyrie Irving back. I won't talk about that, obviously. We already went over that. 14-12, and the East is really jam-packed from the 4 seed on. I think you got Atlanta's a game over 500. As Indiana, who's been a pleasant surprise. They got a lot of good young players. Benedict Morfrin's look really good. You got, in the Plains, you got Toronto Raptors, you got Atlanta, Indiana, and Toronto all the same record. You got Toronto. Yeah, at 500, you got Philly, who obviously, just got James Harden back after he missed a month. You had Embiid out. Max was out at one point. Yeah, the Knicks are a game under 500. They've been very inconsistent, but they're hanging around. Unfortunately, they do is Obi Toppin now. He's out. Will be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. He's got a fracture, I think, in his foot or something like that, or his leg. Heat comes under 500. Talked about that before. Something's up with that team. I'm not sure what's going on. And now it's looking at you have the Washington Wizards, the Chicago Bulls, who are really struggling at 10-14. Hornets 7-18 have been horrible, and then Detroit and Orlando were rounding up the Eastern Conference. Then in the those are probably the two worst teams in the league. In the West, the New Orleans Pelicans are the best team in the West right now. They have won 5 in a row. They are rolling. Zion's playing great. He's been healthy, playing great. Suns are 16-9. They're right there. Memphis also 16-9. They're right there. You know, they're going to be without Desmond Bane, who's probably their best 3-point shooter for probably 3 to 4 weeks now. So that's a big loss for Memphis. Denver's 15-10. They're playing very well. Of course, they're healthy. And Nikola Jokic, 2-time defending MVP, has been, as advertised. Kings 13-10. They're playing good basketball. Utah 15-12. They've fallen off. It's a hot start, but they are still hanging around. They're in 6 at 15-12. We got Dallas starting to play a little better. You know, Luka's been great, but the rest of the team, Rui's got to step up. They're shooting them over 500. Yeah, Portland, who's kind of struggled since a hot start as well. But they're hanging around the plans. You got the Clippers over the game over 500. They've had so many injuries. Kawhi and Paul George have missed so much time this year. Golden State, only 500. 10th in the West. They got to get going. Something's up with that team. I don't know what's going on. They might just be getting old. I mean, first of all, Klay Thompson is not the same player. He's really not. He's had so many injuries, you know. They're all going to Klay, you know, he's not very young. You know, Steph, still an amazing player. Best shooter of all time. Best shooter in the league. Probably maybe the best point guard in the league. But he's getting older. Draymond's getting older. You know, Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins hasn't made the impact they did last year. You know, they don't have the same depth that they did last year. You know, James Wiseman is in the G League right now. I believe he's still in the G League. They got to wake up Golden State. You got Minnesota's only 500. You know, that team's been a mess. You know, Karl-Anthony Towns is out for a while. Under 3 games under 500. They're hanging around. Considering they don't have Chet, it's really just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a bunch of very young guys. And I guess you got Josh Giddey healthy now. They're doing pretty well. Lakers playing better still. Shall be doing a lot better for that roster. Once AD comes back from his illness, see if he picks up where he left off. He had been on a tear. He was averaging like 35 plus, like 8, 9, 10 rebounds a game plus. And like the 9 games prior to him missing the last like game and a half with a non-COVID illness. And then running out the West, hit the Spurs and the Rockets. That's the NBA standings. Thursday Night Football last night. You had the Rams beat the Raiders 17-16. Baker Mayfield obviously was claimed off waivers 2 days prior. John Wolford played the first series, went 3 and out. And in the second series, Baker Mayfield goes out there. Baker actually played a decent game, leads a game-winning drive. Raiders were up 16-3 with less than 3.5 to go, and the Rams came back. So kudos to Baker for just throwing in there as a star. 2 days after being signed by the Rams. Now, obviously, he's had disastrous tenure in the NFL with no on his 3rd team. He's being #1 pick a few years back. Kudos to him, but my God, McDaniels needs to go. He is awful. He is awful. He is god-awful. He has no idea what he is doing. The Raiders have blown 4 leads this year when they were up by at least 13 points. The NFL record is 7. He's pushing that. They are 5-8. They should be so much better. I know, but the defense is horrible. But this dude, his last 2 losses were to an ESPN analyst who hadn't coached about high school football. Last time he coached was last year. He coached a 3-7 high school football team. Lost to him. And then he lost to a team that came in with 3 wins. They were 3-9, depleted by injuries on their 4th quarterback this year, who was signed 2 days ago off the street. Absolutely cooked in last place in their division. And you blew a 13-point lead in the last 3 minutes of the game. How do you do that? That's hard to do. This team is awful. McDaniels is the worst coach in the league and he needs to go. But they're probably stuck with him for probably another year or 2 because of financials. He is awful. He is bad. Dude tried to ice the kicker on an extra point. I know it was a tie game, and if he misses, then it goes to overtime. But like 10 seconds left, you might as well save your timeouts. Now you have 2. Maybe you hope for a miracle. Now you only have 1 timeout. There's not much you can do with that. Oh, the guy is just awful. Awful. Good Lord. By the way, kudos to Josh Jacobs. He's a guy, rookie year, was offensive rookie of the year, had a great year. Last 2 years has been good, but still a step down from his rookie year. Was the decline of his 5th-year option. On his 5th-year option, he was getting like a lot more time in preseason than we thought. Maybe they're trying to look like they were trying to like show him off for teams to try to trade him. Who's gonna be a free agent at the end of the year? He has been maybe the best back in the league. He's got over 1,300 rushing yards. Leads the league in almost every rushing category. He's been a beast this year. Gonna get a big contract this offseason. Even last year when he wasn't quite as good, he was still giving them 900, even around 1,000 yards. The guy's still a top 10 back in the league, and now he's having a breakout year. He's a great running back. Hopefully he's okay. He hurt his hand pretty bad. Apparently he got popped back into place. He was able to play through it, though he was playing through some pain. So he should be fine, but he will get some more work done on the hand this week. But he's got over a week until the Raiders play next, so he's got some time. Hopefully he's okay. He's gonna be a free agent at the end of the season. He's having a great year. I'm gonna recap the WWE SmackDown from last Friday. You had Sami Zayn defeat Sheamus via pinfall. He had some help from the Usos. And then backstage, Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa, they little off the scene, and they went out. And then Jimmy Uso, went to Jey Uso, was like, oh, I never thought you would, be cool with Sami Zayn in the bloodline. And then he was like, yeah, I never would know either. Then they started talking about, hey, he did lie to your face. He's back, right? He's like, yeah. She was like, yeah. That being said, Big Goose, which is of course Roman Reigns, trusts him, so is what it is. And then Sheamus came in with a shillelagh and beat the crap out of them. And now Drew McIntyre and Sheamus will be fighting the Usos. The winner of the Usos, that might already happen on Raw. I'm a little behind with my wrestling. Sorry. They're gonna put the Usos for the SmackDown. Actually, no, the Undisputed Tag Team titles on actually that's tonight. Today's Friday, so tonight there'll be a Tag Team Championship match. But clearly, still a little bit of uncertainty about Sami Zayn. Obviously, him and Kevin Owens go way back, so we'll see where that goes. Ricochet defeats Santos Escobar in the main event. He wins the SmackDown World Cup. He will face Gunther in a rematch for Intercontinental Championship next week. I cannot wait. You had Gunther defeat Kofi Kingston in a non-title match. Braun Strowman came out in the middle of the match and we beat the crap out of Lobo Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, but Gunther was able to prevail. Bray Wyatt cut a promo backstage, talked about how he apparently LA Knight, someone beat the crap out of LA Knight. He says it wasn't him. His alter ego, Uncle Howdy, had another weird message. Maybe it was Uncle Howdy. We all know. Shayna Baszler defeated Emma by submission. Why did they bring Emma back? She is horrible. She's not a good wrestler. Then you had a video package that hyped up Lacey Evans' Marine background, so we'll see if she's going to be coming back in WWE soon. Then when Down Control started cutting a promo, Liv Morgan came out, started fighting Down Control. Then as the numbers game started to catch up to him, a returning Tegan Nox came out with a kendo stick. Liv Morgan and Tegan Nox fended them off. Tegan Nox is back. We'll see where that goes, but she is back. And then Karrion Kross and Scar had this like a really weird video. Of course, he looks like he's gonna be feuding with Rey Mysterio. And that is SmackDown. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to be back on Tuesday. I won't have access to the studio until January, so it's going to look a little odd, but we'll do our best. I will still be live. That is the plan right now. If anything changes, I'll let you all know. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.